Every day, Israelites are awakening. Every day, people are coming into the knowledge of this truth. They're coming into this knowledge of who they are, who their power is, who they belong to. And when you first awaken, you're a babe, right? And so all babies need guidance. They need instructions. They need tutelage. All right. They need to be fed milk. And the same thing pertains to this truth. The newly awakened individuals, they need the milk of the word. All right. They need the foundational things. And because you're going to have questions, you get excited and you have this zeal, this joy. And then that joy, is followed up by, well, okay, well, what do I do now? And when they start searching for, the answers to that question, they start to run into the plethora of law lovers. All right, because they make up the majority of the people in this awakening. They're going to run into them first, most likely. If they don't, then they are blessed to be able to run into people like me first so that they can, not have to, learn things that they got to unlearn later. All right. And so, in the spirit of that, we are here to beat this dead horse, and it has to be beaten because it is very important. All right. The things that are most important must be taught often. All right. Repeatedly, obsessively. Okay. And so, we're going to get into this thing, man, to talk about the law of sin and death. All right, because those people need to know. They're going to ask those questions. Well, what do I do? And then they're going to be told, well, you got to keep the law of Moses. You got to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Well, what are the laws, statutes, and commandments that I got to keep? And they're going to say everything, the 10 Commandments and all of the law of Moses and all of these statutes and judgments and everything else. See, that's the response of the uneducated, of the ignorant, or of those who seek to destroy you by placing burdens on you that you're unable to carry. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and get into this, and we're going to break it down. All right. Because why the law of Moses was replaced by Yahawashi is important to understand. All right. So um, having a love of the law without understanding is pure ignorance. All right. And many people find themselves um, under those conditions of having a zeal for the Most High, but not according to knowledge, having a love for the law, but without understanding. All right. And so we all understand that, like, if you're in America, wherever you are, there are laws that govern that place, whether it's the United States of America as a country in which there are federal laws, there are laws that govern us, as a whole. And then, each state is like its own country as well. And so there are state laws. All right. So we understand these things to be um, laws of the land laws, right? Civil laws, laws to govern, the people in the society. And the same was true for Israel. We had our covenant agreement, and the Ten Commandments was part of our covenant agreement. Those are the commandments that we're supposed to follow. Then you had the land laws, the civil laws, and those, that's the law of Moses. All right. Again, you are to obey the laws of the land. This is what we are instructed by our power and to obey the laws of the land. We are not in our own land. All right. We are not governing ourselves. So we are not under our civil laws, our land laws. All right. So, many brothers and sisters, they love the law of Moses. And why do they love it? They can't keep it. They don't keep it with perfection. So why do they love it so much? Because it's part of our history. It's part of our culture. All right. We are people who were robbed of our history, robbed of our culture, right? Robbed of our heritage. So when we come back to it, when we discover it, they have a zeal for trying to reclaim everything that was ours. And so in that zeal, they never learned that, those things were for that time. They were for a time that is now gone. All right. They don't know how to compartmentalize and understand that, there's a season for everything. And you know what I mean? And that certain things don't apply to all times and certain things do. All right. They don't know how to distinguish between the two. All right. So they revere it, they worship it. Right. And so they cling to it, or like a babe clings to the titty. All right. That's the same thing they do. And again, it's understandable because babies are in need of being fed and they need that milk. All right. And these individuals are babes in need of being fed and they need the milk. All right. They're just like babies. And so babies, again, they're good. This is what they're going to do. And so this is how you can tell somebody who's a baby in the spirit. They cling to the law of Moses. Anybody telling you that you got to keep the law of Moses, they are a baby in the spirit, or they are a demon, a devil who is trying to deceive you. One or the other. It has to be one or the other. There is no other, option available. All right. And so, so then they boast in it. I keep this law, I keep this feast day, that feast day. That's what they do. All right. But Yahawashi, at the will of our Father, came to remove boasting, came to remove pride and ego, came to remove the things that caused divisions within Israel. He removed the stumbling stones and the things that was causing his children to hate each other, to fight, to kill one another. All right. Because there was nothing about killing each other in the Ten Commandments. That came under the law of Moses, where we were given instructions to kill for this and kill for that. Right. So the truth is, even though they boast in it, they worship it, they cling to it, they don't really understand it. All right. No matter how much you teach them, most of them are never going to understand. But there are some who will. Remember, I was one of those who once didn't understand, but now I do. I was blind, but now I see. So I understand that just because you don't believe now or you don't understand now, that doesn't mean that you're meant to remain in ignorance. And for me, I got revelation via the Holy Spirit, just via studying and praying, and the Most High showed me. But some people need somebody to teach them. And here I am. This is why I'm here. All right. That you might be taught, for me to be an instrument of your instruction and your correction. All right. So I pray that you learn, that you benefit from this as much as possible. So let us give all praise, honor, and glory to our Heavenly Father and to our Heavenly King, and give thanks for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit and ask for faith in great measure. All right. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and discernment in great measure. All right. This is what you should pray for daily, especially right before you study. All right. Listening to these videos, that's part of studying. So you should pray to be able to understand, to be edified by what comes out, and to have the discernment to know what to throw away and what to keep in case there's something inside of what I'm teaching that's incorrect and you got to throw it away. All right. So, again, they don't understand, you know, what it's for, right? Why it was temporary, because the law of Moses was indeed temporary, and why it condemned us. So today, through the Spirit, you know, we will open the book and hear the law. All right, the same law they say they uphold, but do not understand. Walk with me through this thing. All right. And you'll see why it's done away with, and you'll see why it's foolishness to try to hold on to it. And you'll see and know for a fact that anybody who's saying that they keep the law of Moses, that they're liars. All right. You're gonna see for yourself. All right. So let's get Galatians 4. We're gonna do what they don't do here. We're gonna go through the law of Moses. All right. I'm not just going to tell you, you got to keep the whole law. No, no, no. We're going to go through it. We're going to break it down. All right. So Galatians 4, verse 21 says, "Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear the law?" He has to ask this question because all of these law lovers are ignorant of the law. They claim to love it and they desire to be under it, but they're ignorant of it. They don't know what they love so much and what they're clinging to and what they're desiring to be under. They don't understand. They are children, babes in this awakening. All right? Stop being taught by babes. You wouldn't allow yourself to be taught by babies in this world, so don't allow yourself to be taught by babies in this truth. All right? So, what was the purpose of the law of Moses? We're going to remain in Galatians. Let's go back to chapter 3. Let's go straight to verse 19. We're going to cut to the chase. Why then serveth the law? It says wherefore, but I was just translating. Wherefore then serveth the law? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. It was added. So it was never originally what we were given or supposed to have. It was not part of the Father's initial desire for us to be under it. It came after. After what? After transgressions. It was added because of transgressions. All right. That's the first part of what you should understand. So then your first question should be, well, what transgressions caused us to have this added? All right. Then the second part is till. So till, it signifies an end to something. All right. It's a time period till the seed should come to whom the promise was made, which is Yahawashi. So that means that the law of Moses was added and it was supposed to be in effect only until Yahawashi came. And then he died, and then the will and testament went into effect after his death. All right, the new one. All right. So, so again, the law was added not originally, right? And it was not eternal. It was temporary. It was given to magnify sin, right? And to show that we had a need of a savior, Yahawashi. So it was always meant to just be something that conditioned us, got us ready for Yahawashi, to prepare us for Yahawashi, to show us that we weren't capable of saving ourselves, that we had no righteousness within ourselves, that we needed help. All right. Because if you're a strong swimmer, you know, and you're in the water and you're just swimming, and a lifeguard jumps into the water, right, to come save you, and you're not drowning and you're a strong swimmer, you're not thankful for that individual jumping into the water to come save you. All right. But if you're not a strong swimmer, right, and you're struggling in the water and that lifeguard jumps in there and they come to save you, you're happy to see them. All right. You don't fight them when they get there to come help you. Once they get you out of the water and they save you, you're thankful. You appreciate them. That was the purpose of the law of Moses, to make us appreciate Yahawashi when he came, to make us happy to see him coming. All right. To cause us to know that we needed him. Right. And so let's go to Romans 5. Verse 20. And it reads, moreover, the law entered so that the offense might abound. You see, the Father gave us the law so that our offense could abound, to cause us to go deeper into sin. Why? Because the worse we sin, the more that we were understanding we were not worthy of grace, of mercy, and of his blessings. So we would appreciate them more when we were given to it, because we would know that it was his gift and not something that we earned, not something that we deserved. All right. So the law of Moses had a purpose. All right, which was to cause us to go into sin and to recognize and understand our sin, so that we would be thankful for his gifts. All right. But where sin abounded, grace did much more abound. All right. So the law of Moses was never meant to save us. All right. It was meant to prove that we were guilty beyond doubt. All right. Incapable of saving ourselves, and to show us that we needed him. All right. It was to prepare us for salvation through Yahawashi. All right. And I know, if you're new to this and you're like, again, you go back to what we just read and it said, and sin entered. And the previous, when we saw, it says, why do you serve the law? It says it was added because of transgression. Right. So then you would ask yourself, well, what transgression caused it to be added? Right. We go back to Deuteronomy chapter 5. right? And we see the subject matter. It says the 10 Commandments repeated. So here, Moses is reiterating the 10 Commandments, right? So, he's going through it, he's breaking it down, and he's giving them the 10 Commandments. All right. You can read it for yourself, but I'm going to cut to the chase. All right. Now, so as soon as he finishes repeating the 10 Commandments, this is what he says. These words, Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawashi, spake unto all your assembly. All right. So Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawashi spoke directly to the entire assembly of Israel. Directly. Moses has not interceded for Israel yet. This is about to happen. So at this time, the Father, through Yahawashi, spoke directly to the entire assembly of Israel in the mount, out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness, with the great voice, which was Yahawashi, that great voice. Right? So he gave them the 10 Commandments. He spoke the 10 Commandments directly to all of them, right? Directly, not through Moses. And then, listen, he added no more. He added no more commandments. He didn't give them anything else. He did not give them the 613 laws of Moses. He just gave them the 10 Commandments, and that was it. That's all he wanted them to be under. That's all he wanted them to have. That's what he intended for us to be under. Right? And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. We're going to get to the part that shows the transgression of why the law of Moses was added. Okay. So we just saw he added no more. Right. So we know the law of Moses has not been given yet because we were told that it was added later. So we're coming up to the part to show when it was added and why it was added. So you know the purpose. All right. Why it was instituted. And it came to pass when ye heard the voice out of the midst of the darkness, for the mountain did burn with fire, that ye came near unto me, even all the heads of your tribes and your elders. And ye said, Behold, the Lord our God hath showed us his glory and his greatness. So they say they saw it, right? They saw his greatness and his glory, and we have heard his voice. So they all heard his voice. They heard Yahawashi speaking to them out of the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that the Most High doth talk with man, and he liveth. So we've seen the proof of him. Now, therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of Yahawah, our power, anymore, then we shall die. So they don't want to hear his voice anymore. All right, remember, and his voice was Yahawashi. He was the voice of Yahawah. They didn't want to hear his voice anymore. You see, the same thing as reprobate Israel when he came, right? The people who didn't want to hear his voice, it was the same thing. Nothing new under the sun. They didn't want to hear his voice. All right. Same spirits, regenerated, back doing what they've done before, right? Staying true to themselves. Generation after generation, right? It says, For who is there of all flesh that hath heard the voice of the living power speaking out of the midst of the fire as we haven't lived? Now listen what they're going to ask Moses to do. Go thou near and hear all that Yahawah, Bahashem Yahawashi, our power shall say. All right, you go talk to him for us. Have him talk to you. All right, and speak thou unto us all that Yahawah, Bahashem Yahawashi, our power shall speak unto thee, and we will hear it and do it. So they did not want to hear from him directly. They didn't want to have a direct relationship with him. They didn't want to hear what he said, right? They didn't like hearing the 10 Commandments. You see, he gave them the 10 Commandments, and it was grievous unto them. They didn't like the rules. It was too much, right? They murmured against his rules, all right? It's like getting mad at dad. You don't like his rules, right? And you want to go in and be under some other rules. So they were hoping that Moses can go back. Otherwise, why did they need Moses to go back to him to go speak to him, and then they go listen to him if he speaks through Moses? But he didn't just told them what he wanted to tell them because they didn't like what they heard. They didn't like what he told them. They didn't like the delivery and they didn't like the message. They wanted no parts of either the message or the delivery. Right? And the Lord heard the voice of your words when ye spake unto me. And the Lord said unto me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken unto thee. They have well said all that they have spoken. When he says they have well said, he's not saying that it was a good thing. All right. He's just acknowledging that he heard their words. These were their words. They said it. I heard them. They have very well said all that they have spoken. That's another way you can put it. All right. Oh, that there were such an heart in them that they would fear me, that they would respect me and keep all my commandments always. So he's referencing these commandments that they didn't want to hear. They despised them. They despised hearing them. And he knew that they wouldn't keep them. All right, that it might be well with them and with their children forever. So he knew that they would not obey his commandments. He says his desire was for them to keep his commandments, the 10 commandments, always, not the law of Moses. Go, say to them, get you into your tents again. So basically, he's saying, get them out of my face now. Tell them to get out of my face, get out of here and go into their tents. But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments. Now watch this. And the statutes, that's adding. Now things are about to be added. And the judgments. You see, they didn't like the commandments alone. So now he's about to give them commandments, the same commandments again, right? That they didn't want to hear. They're about to get them again, but now there's things being added. And the statutes and the judgments which thou shalt teach them, that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess it. So now they're about to be given all of these rules to be under. Since they didn't like the 10 commandments, they didn't like 10 rules to follow, they're about to get those 10 and over 600 more. All right. But listen to what it says, though. All right. He says, and you will, and he in the judgment which thou shalt teach them, that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess it. That they may do them when and where? In the land which I give them to possess it. Did he say for all times? No. He says that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess it, because they're land laws. He's about to give them civil laws, since they weren't going to be spiritual people. All right. The 10 commandments were for spiritual people. Spiritual people wouldn't have needed all of these laws. They would have just naturally done all of these things that are going to be broken down into 613 laws. But since they're carnal, fleshly, right, and wicked, they need 613 laws to govern them. All right. So now they're having this great yoke placed upon their neck. Remember when Yahawashi said, learn of me, right? He said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Compared to what? Compared to the law of Moses. 10 commandments is way easier to carry and to deal with than 613 laws. All right. He says, you shall observe to do, therefore, as the Lord your God hath commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right or to the left. You shall walk in all the ways which Yahawah Bahashem, Yahawashi, your God, hath commanded you, that ye may live, and that it may be well with you, and that ye may prolong your days, listen up, in the land which ye shall possess, for all times, for eternity, in the land which ye shall possess, no matter where you go, in the land which ye shall possess. When you're in your captivity, spread all throughout the earth, in the land which ye shall possess. Case closed. I should stop right now, and we're done. We don't need any more, right? Nah, yes we do. We know Israel, stubborn, hard-headed, stiff-necked. They gotta have more. They gotta have more, and there is. All right. So the law is called the law of sin and death for a reason. All right. But let's go get the scripture, though. Let's go to Romans 8. So you can see it's not just me talking. And look, the subject matter says deliverance from bondage. Deliverance from what kind of bondage? All right. Bondage under the law. The law of Moses put our people in bondage. Our Father didn't want us in bondage, but he brought it upon us for the transgressions of murmuring against him. All right. and not want to hear his voice. All right. All right. But let's read though. It says, there is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Hamashiach Yahawashi, right? Because that's what we were always supposed to do, right? Who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit, right? Because the people who walk after the flesh, there's condemnation unto them because they remain under the law. But let's continue. For the law of the spirit of life is in Hamashiach Yahawashi. Uh, not is in. For the law of the spirit of life in Hamashiach Yahawashi hath made me free. Free from what? Free from the law of sin and death. Huh? So being in Yahawashi, Yahawashi came to free us from the law of sin and death. Well, what is that law of sin and death that he freed us from? These other people, they will try to convince you that it was the sacrificial portion of the law that he came to save us from. That the sacrificial ceremonies and rituals is what, we needed to be saved from, is what was put away. Doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense at all. That the great burden upon us, the thing that made us sin, was having to sacrifice. No, we had to sacrifice because of our sins. All right. Sacrificing is what we had to do because of the sins. It wasn't the cause of the sins. All right. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, the Most High sending his own son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh. He condemned the law of Moses, so that the righteousness of the law and not the letter of the law, because that's what Israel did. All right. They tried to uphold the letter of the law, and then in the letter of the law was 613 laws. The spirit of the law was in the 10 commandments, because if you through the spirit obey the 10 commandments, you would have naturally just done all those 613 things without them having to be outlined for you, without having to be under the threat of death in order to keep them, because you in your spirit, you would keep them. All right. So the law of Moses was called the law of sin and death because it did not offer life. It led us to death. We sinned under the law. And under the law, that means we had to die, under the law, because if you didn't keep it, the penalty was death. And nobody could keep it perfectly. So everybody was worthy of death, because if you offended in one area, you offended in all. So everybody, all of Israel was worthy to die. All right. The law of Moses, it highlighted sin, right? It demanded blood. All right. And it passed death sentences on to the children of the Most High, man, for failure, because we constantly failed, man. Nobody succeeded under the law of Moses except Yahawashi. All right. You broke one law, you broke them all, like I said, but let's go get it. So I'm not just talking. All right. Prove all things, right? I'm not one of these people who's just going to talk. All right. I'm going to use the scripture to back it up. I dare them try to use the scriptures that prove their position. They can't do it. And even trying to do so is absolute wickedness. Absolute wickedness. All right. James 2, verse 10. It says, for whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. All right. 613 laws. If you keep 612 perfectly and offend in one, it's the same as if you offended in all. You broke them all. That's how heavy of a burden it was. That's how we were in bondage under the law of Moses. It made us a slave to sin, right? It made us servants of sin. It made us worthy of death. So the Father, because he loved us, he came to remove the law of Moses so that we wouldn't be worthy of death. But then you get these Israelites who try to cling to the very thing that was killing us. It's stupid, right? It's like you got cancer and the doctor says, I can cut this cancer out of you, right? And you start whining and crying about wanting to hold on to the cancer, all right? He come and he takes you, he puts you to sleep, he takes that cancer out of you and you awaken, and then you start, trying to ask for, can I get that cancerous tissue you took out of me? Can I get it back? And then they start eating it to try to put the cancer back in their body. That's what they're doing. It's pure foolishness. It's ignorance. It's barbaric stupidity. This is what they're doing. I hope you got that image in your mind because it's dumb. Don't be one of the dummies, all right, who have to be thrown into the fire for stupidity's sake. All right. So again, there's no grace, no spirit, no freedom, just sin, just condemnation, just death. That's all that the law of Moses provided. That's all that it accomplished. So why would you want to hold on to it today? All right. It's like being free from slavery. It's like, a decree going out that slavery is wickedness and it's not right. Free the slaves. Right. So then you get freedom. The new law comes and says you're free. Having slaves is wrong. And then your dumb ass come along, all right, trying to get the laws overturned and get slavery brought back into effect. Dummy. No. I don't like my freedom. Slavery should still exist. Slavery ain't wrong. Being free is wrong. That's what they're doing. It's sheer ignorance. I'm trying to tell you. I hope you can see it. All right. Why the law is a yoke of bondage? Well, I just explained it, right? We see that the law is a yoke of bondage, and we have been given liberty. Verse 12, so speak ye and so do as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. All right, not by the law of Moses. We have liberty. The Most High knew that we were going to go into captivity because he put us here, and he knew that we were not going to be able to keep 613 laws, though the law of Moses was going to be impossible for us to keep. And if it was still in effect, even with us being in our captivity, we would all die. There would be no hope for any of us. We would all just be waiting to die. There would be no salvation, no deliverance, no kingdom for us, just death. All right? And in his foresight, because he knew what was coming, because he was responsible for it, he removed the law of Moses because we wouldn't be able to keep it. He removed the law of sin and death because we couldn't keep it. He removed it. It was already proven, generation after generation, that we would not be able to keep it. Even if we remained in our own land, we wouldn't have been able to keep it. So there was damn sure no way we were going to keep it in the lands of our captivities. No way, no how. All right, let's go to Acts 15. Act 15. Let's come down to verse 10. Now, therefore, why tempt ye the Most High to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? You see, nothing new under the sun, right? You get these wicked teachers and so-called disciples who are out here trying to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we are able to bear. All right, nothing new under the sun. This is what they're doing. All right, let's go to Galatians 5. Verse 1. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty, not in the law of Moses, in the liberty wherewith Hamashiach hath made us free. Free from what? Free from the law of Moses. And be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Entangled with what? The yoke of bondage. What is the yoke of bondage that we were once entangled with, that we are told to not be entangled with again? That is the law of Moses. All right. Behold, I, Paul, say unto you that if ye be circumcised, if you put yourself under the law of Moses, Yahawashi shall profit you nothing. His death, burial, and resurrection does not cover you. All right. You are responsible for atoning for your own sins, trying to get into the kingdom of your own power, of your own righteousness, and it's impossible. So you're going to fail. You are given an impossible task. If you are under the law of Moses, if you believe that you're supposed to cling to it, that is still in effect, you have an impossible task. You are just waiting to die. Dead man walking. All right. It says, for I testify again to every man that is under the law of Moses, that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law, all of it, not some of it, not just the parts that you can do, not do it to the best of your ability. You got to keep it all in perfection. And Christ has become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace. All right. That's why you're cursed, because you can't keep the law, and you're cursed to have to keep it, or otherwise you die. And you're not going to be able to keep it, so you're going to die. You're under a curse if you're under the law. Clinging to the law of Moses is the same as clinging unto death and not wanting to be saved. You don't want nobody to come and take you out of that fire. You just want to burn up in the house. Okay. All right. So the law demanded perfect obedience. All right. 100% righteousness at all times. And we weren't capable. And this is what the law of Moses was highlighting. It was showing us that we were incapable of 100% righteousness. We were incapable of perfect obedience. All right. And so we had need of a savior. We had need of Yahawashi. That was why we're supposed to love him, honor him, be thankful to him. All right. That's why we're supposed to love him. All right. The law of Moses, it had no power to help, only to condemn. All right. It was a burden that was too heavy for anyone to bear. All right. That's why Paul called it a yoke of bondage. All right. AKA a crushing weight. All right. A crushing weight. All right. Let's go get Colossians chapter 2. Verse 14. All right. Now, for context, all right, this is talking about the law of Moses. All right. So we're going to get right to verse 14. All right. See what Yahawashi did in him coming and dying for us, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us. All right. The law of Moses was the ordinances. All right. It wasn't the 10 commandments. It wasn't the commandments that we got to follow. Those were the ordinances that were against us. All right. The civil laws, the land laws. All right. Which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the cross. All right. Doesn't say he got rid of the sacrificial portion of the law only, because the sacrificial part of the law was the part that was contrary to us. No, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us. All right. We weren't capable of keeping it because we were never supposed to be under the law of Moses. That's why it was contrary to us. It was never meant for us. It was given as a punishment. All right. So then and so they're going to come and say, no, 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 it was just a sacrificial law that was nailed to the cross. All right. This and Most High knew that they would say this. That's why you keep reading, right? And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Listen, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of any holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath day, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Hamashiach. All right. To let it's again making it clear that this was about the law of Moses as a whole, not just sacrificial laws and rituals. All right. That's not what it's saying. That's what people who love the law of Moses, that's what Moses' disciples would say. All right. That's what ignorant people would say who don't understand this word. You see, so the law, it wasn't helping us. It was working against us. It was contrary to us. Every sin was another mark against us. We was just tallying up our sins, man. We was running it up. Man, we was running it up. Right? And so, again, it was just another mark against us, aka another judgment, right? Waiting to fall. Right? We were just waiting to fall, man. All right. So Yahawashi nailed it to the cross, right? Meaning He canceled its authority. He took away the authority and the power of the law of Moses. Only he can do it, right? Only he could do it because he instituted it. He gave it as a punishment. Only the person who instituted the punishment can take you out of it. That's how it works. All right. The blood of bulls and goats and so forth couldn't get us out of punishment. All right. It couldn't save us from punishment. It was not worthy. It wasn't a worthy sacrifice. All right. And so again, he canceled its authority over us and he replaced it with the new covenant. Now, these people would tell you, we are not under the new covenant. We are not under the new covenant. But yet the scriptures tell us that Yahawashi is the mediator of what? The new covenant, right? He became the high priest of what? The new covenant. The intercessor of what? The new covenant. So if we are not under the new covenant already, what does that mean, class? That he is not interceding for us, that he is not currently our high priest. We're waiting for him to become our high priest one day. That's what they're saying. It sounds stupid when you say it like that, right? Exactly. Right? They're saying that we are not covered by him. We have no agreement with him right now. We have no agreement with him right now. We have no contract right now with him. There's no reason for him to save us, to deliver us, to look out for us, because we are not under any agreement with him at the moment. We're waiting for him to become our high priest, our intercessor, our salvation. Yeah, okay. Again, don't stop just listening to anybody. This is what you should be learning from this, right? That you have been greatly fooled and led astray by people that you respected and thought they had a great knowledge of this word, and I'm proving that they do not. Excuse me, pardon me. The Most High is proven through me that they do not. All right. So let's show the brothers and sisters directly from the law itself, right? Why it is impossible to keep, right? Why it condemned us and why it was for a land that we no longer possess. We are no longer in that land, right? So it is for a time that is past, right? So to briefly talk about, right? If you go into Leviticus 25, right? I don't want to make this too long, right? I don't want to make this too long. So I'll just give you the scriptures. You can write them down and go into it yourself, right? So you can go into Leviticus 25, read verse 1 through 7, right? And it gives us instructions on sabbatical year, right? Where we are to let the land rest every seventh year. This is what we're supposed to do. This is part of the law. But since we're not in our land, we aren't able to observe the land Sabbaths. All right. So if there's another people in our land and the law of Moses is still in effect, it doesn't matter that another people are in our land. We still got to keep this law. You're saying that we still got to keep this law even though we're not in our land. That's what you're saying. You're saying it's not a land law. They're going to argue with me and say, these are not land laws. All right. So then go force those people you believe are in your land. Go force them to keep the land Sabbath then. Go force them to do it. If you don't force them to do it, then you're guilty because you're not making sure it gets done, right? You're guilty. You're under the law of Moses. You got to make sure the land keeps the Sabbath. Doesn't matter if you're not in the land. Doesn't matter if you don't have the power. You got to make sure you do it anyway. And if you don't do it, you're guilty. All right. You are in trouble. All right, there's all sorts of lands, right? The year of Jubilee, right? Return land every 50 years, right? The rules about planting fruit trees in the land, all of these things you can read in Leviticus, right? 25. But again, these are agriculture laws. These are agriculture laws under the law of Moses. Why? Because they are civil laws teaching us on how to what we're supposed to do when we're in our land. All right. What's the problem? We are not in our land. Right? We don't control agriculture in our land, right? We can't obey these laws even if we wanted to, fam. All right. And what about Levitical priesthood? There is no Levitical priesthood. We have no sanctuary. All right. Most of the laws, right, also require the Levitical priesthood and they require the sanctuary in order to fulfill them. All right. And so people are out here claiming they're keeping this holy day, this feast day, that day. What is the problem? There is no temple, right? There is no active Levitical priesthood, no matter who is out here calling themselves a Levite and a priest. All right. We have no authority to perform sacrifices. Well, the sacrificial part of the law was done away with. Okay. Okay. So no sacrifices is necessary. But you still need a temple, and you still need a Levitical priesthood, though, right? So what else is the problem, right? That means Yahawashi is now our high priest. Yes, because we are under the new covenant. That is also the problem. All right. It's also the reason why there is no Levitical priesthood. Because he is our high priest. There has been a change made. But the Most High, he changed not. But yet he got rid of the Levitical priesthood, and he himself from the tribe of Judah have now become our high priest. When that was a Levite thing, right? But he changed not. But yet, all of us, regardless of, what tribe we come from, he's come to make us kings and priests, right? All of us, the men, right? Of the elect, all the elect men are to be kings and priests, regardless of tribe, right? That's changing. That's doing something different, right? Because you don't understand what he meant when he says that he doesn't change. Right. So again, they don't really understand. They think that because he instituted the law of Moses once, that he doesn't change. But see, the problem with that is that if you're going to use, he changes not as your barometer to say that the law of Moses has to still be in effect because he doesn't change, well, what about the fact that the law of Moses wasn't given to us in the first place? Only the 10 commandments. Then he changed and gave us the law of Moses on top of the 10 commandments. So he would have never given us the law of Moses in the first place if he changes not meant what you say it means, which means the law of Moses should never be legitimate in the first place because he never gave it to us in the first place. You say anything somebody saying he changed and did something different, that's not legitimate. So that means the law of Moses was never legitimate. So why are you fighting for it? You see, you can't win this one with the likes of me. I am endowed with the spirit of the highest, man. You can't fool me, man. I am of the elect. I can't be deceived. You can deceive these other people, man, who aren't strong in spirit, but you can't deceive me. And Yahawah willing, I'm going to get to educate these people and teach them and save them from the likes of you. If you are out here being one of these people, look at Colossians 2:22, right? All of these things, right? The touch not, taste not, handle not, right? All of these things under the law of Moses, which are all to perish with the using, right? After the commandments, listen, and doctrines of men. After the commandments and doctrines of men. That's where it's coming from, fam. This isn't coming from the Most High. It is coming from these men who are not obeying the will of the highest. All right. But again, like I said, Yahawashi is now our high priest, right? Which means we are under the new covenant because he is the high priest of the new covenant. He is not the high priest of the old covenant. He is not the high priest of the in-between time, man, the word just escaped my mind right now. Wow. Wow. It completely left me, right? That time period between two things, right? Somebody is screaming it at the screen right now. I just can't remember the word of it right now. He's not the mediator of, the time period between two things, purgatory. You're right. He's not that, because we would be in a state of purgatory if we're not under the covenant, right? We're not yet dead, but we're alive, but we're not really alive because we're spiritually dead, which means we are in purgatory, a state of purgatory. We're just waiting to get to where we're going. All right. We are in that intermediate place. That's the word I was looking for. Intermediate. We are in the intermediate time and space. But no, we're not. We're not we're not inside of an intermediate time and space. We are in the time of the new covenant, just not everybody is in it. People are all coming into the new covenant through process of time. All right. And that is the thing. The first fruits, we are the first fruits, the first ones to come into the new covenant, the first ones to be perfected under the new covenant. But we're not waiting for the new covenant. It's here. All right. It's just not that all of us are come unto it at the same time. So when the scriptures tell you that in the wilderness, we're going to be brought into the bond of the covenant, coming into the bond of the covenant doesn't mean it's just being instituted. It just means that that's the time when Israel, when we're all going to be brought into the new covenant together now, together, bonded together as a people, not being instituted for the first time. All right. So again, I said, let's go to Hebrews chapter 7, and I never went. Let's go. All right. Hebrews 7. Somebody's like, man, he said we're going to Hebrews chapter 7. Man, he ain't never get there. Brother just talking, giving us commentary. All right. Hebrews 7, verse 24. But this man, because he continueth ever, hath an unchangeable priesthood. Right. Wherefore he is able to save them to the uttermost that come unto the Most High by him, seeing he ever liveth to make intercession for them, the same way the Levitical priesthood did. But the Levitical priesthood is now gone. 70 AD, he took it down. We are under the new covenant. He is the high priest of the new covenant, of the New Testament. All right. For such a high priest became us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled. All right. He was not Solomon. He was not Adam. He was undefiled, separate from sinners, not a sinner himself, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens. All right. He is our high priest. All right. So, what about the law of Moses and as it pertains to death penalties? There are many things that could cause death, bring about death, right? You know, we can bring out a few. Let's go get Exodus 21. Let's come to verse 15. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. And who's supposed to put him to death? The community, the congregation, the people, Israel, right? So that's what we're supposed to do, right? So that means if you're an Israelite, if you know any other Israelite that has ever hit their father or mother, you're supposed to round up the posse and you're supposed to go kill them. All right. Now go ask these so-called law lovers, you know, how many Israelites they've killed for hitting their mother and father. That law is still in effect, they say. So that means they should have killed a whole bunch of uh, 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 wicked children by now. Go ask them how many they've killed. Verse 16, and he that stealeth the man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. All right. Ask them how many people have they killed. All right. They know that we are the victims of slavery and being in captivity. These same men also understand regeneration in that the people here now were also those who were responsible for our captivity. Go ask them how many of them went and put any of these people to death that put us in captivity. Verse 17, and he that curseth his father or mother shall surely be put to death. Another reason to kill. All right, gonna ask them how many did they kill. All right. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with the rod and he die under his hand, he shall be surely punished. Again, we know that this has happened to our people under the hands of these people. Why aren't y'all killing people? Right? And so again, you can go on and on and on and on, reading all of these laws and everything, and you can see that if they really believed that the law of Moses was still in effect, they are in sin. They are guilty of not abiding by the law because there are things that they're supposed to do when people don't keep them. All right. All right. A lot of people don't want to admit this, but you got mothers who were adulterous women. Go ask them how many of them stoned their adulterous mothers, right? Many have mothers and fathers who committed spiritual adultery. They're idolaters. They're in Christianity or Islam or spiritualism or some other thing that was condemned, right? Go ask them if they've killed their parents for being Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and atheists and so forth. Go ask them. Go ask them. If they haven't, they are guilty of breaking the law and they got to die. They got to die. There is no hope for them because they can't atone. They can't make it right in any way because they aren't covered under Yahawashi's atoning sacrifice. They got to die. They didn't keep the law. Right? There is a death penalty for adultery. Again, adultery is rampant in the Israelite community. All right? Whore culture is rampant, but they aren't out there slaying people, slaying women left and right for committing adultery, are they? But yet they believe the law of Moses is still in effect. That means they have a duty to get out there and go get the killing. Go get it done. All right? You under the law, right? Go get busy. All right? Let's go to Exodus 31. Verse 14. Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. Surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. All right, you believe that this is something you got to do, right? Why are you not out here killing people that are not keeping the Sabbath? I see your videos. I see a lot of y'all out there on the corner street teaching, you know what I'm saying, trying to condemn people for working on a Sabbath, right? Coming out of the food joint. You're standing there waiting for them to come out of the food joint on the Sabbath so that you can berate them. But why you ain't slaying people, though? Why you ain't killing? Why you just talking? Why all the talking? It doesn't say that you got to berate them. They should surely be talked to death. No, you're supposed to put them to death. Get busy. Right? Law lover, get on your job. Otherwise, you are guilty as well as them. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, you share in their sins. All right? Get to work. All right. So again, what is the problem? Right? We can't lawfully execute anyone in captivity, fam. Right? If we try to enforce these laws today, we'd be arrested, in prison, and we all be sitting on death row for trying to keep the law of Moses. All right. So we are under Gentile laws. We are under the laws of the land that we are in, not the laws of our land. We are under the laws of the land that we are in. All right, not the laws of our ancient theocratic kingdom. All right. No, so you had temple-centered feasts and offerings, right? So you get all these men around here talking about, oh, keep this date and this date, and you got to keep the holy days. But do you realize that there were certain, rituals that were to accompany, the keeping of these days? So, but they're not doing it, right? They're not doing it. All right. All right. We know that Passover must be kept at the place where Yahawah chose, which was the temple, right? So that means in order to truly keep Passover, right, you got to go to the temple. There is no keeping the Passover without the temple, fam. Anybody telling you otherwise, they're lying to you, fam. All right? They're supposed to have built the temple so that they can keep the Passover. Ask them why they ain't built the temple yet, right? Deuteronomy 16 and 16, right? Let's go there. It reads, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before Yahawah, by Hashem Yahawashi thy power, where? In the place which he shall choose, that's Jerusalem, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear, and they shall not appear before Yahawah Bashem Yahawashi empty. All right, go ask them. Do they go 3 times a year for the feast up to Jerusalem? If they don't, they aren't keeping it, and they are guilty of not keeping the law. Right? They are guilty of not keeping the law. But since I'm here, let's come back up to verse 5 because I talked about it. Let's read it. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates. What? Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, but at the place where the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even. Right? Because there has to be a sacrifice made for Passover. If you're not making a sacrifice, you're not keeping the Passover. All right? And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. All right? That's Jerusalem. And thou shalt turn in the morning and go into thy tents. All right? Got to go to the temple. Right? But again, they can't do any of these things. This is the reason why the law of Moses was put out of the way. It's part of the reason why. All right. So we see the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. Right or wrong? Right. All right. There is no place to appear, fam. Where are you supposed to appear? Where are you supposed to go? Right? The feast can be remembered. You can remember the feast, right? But they can't be kept as commanded. All right. So you can remember the feast. There's no problem with that, but you can't really keep it the way we were commanded to keep it. So you can't be commanding anybody to keep them. You can't say that it's necessary and that you got to do it. No, you don't, because you can't. All right. So the law was a shadow of things to come and not the substance, not the very thing itself. All right. Hebrews 10. Hebrews 10, verse 1. For the law, it's talking about the law of Moses, having a shadow of good things to come and not the very image of the things, can never, with those sacrifices which they offered year by year, continually make the comers thereunto perfect. Well, yeah, you see, that's why it was the sacrificial part of the law that was changed, Ak. Okay. Just throw away all the scriptures, everything that's being said, in order to try to hold on to your incorrect belief. All right. So the law pointed to Yahawashi. That's what I mean by it was a shadow of things to come. All right. The law was a shadow, right? The real fulfillment is in Yahawashi. All right. So if you cling to the shadow and reject the body, you have neither. All right. Again, Yahawashi is the fulfillment of the new covenant promise. All right. Hebrews 8. Verse 6. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry. All right. What is in compared to what? No, matter of fact, let's back up a bit. Let's back up to, let's just read from verse 1. Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, right? Not the earthly tabernacle, the true spiritual tabernacle, which the Lord pitched and not man. All right. This is a difference. This is a change being made. He changed not. Okay. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices. Wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law, who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of the Most High when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also He is the mediator of a better covenant. All right, mean better than the first. So we're not under the first covenant. We're not under the old, right? Which was established upon better promises. All right. So better promises equals grace, mercy, and the Holy Spirit. So that's the new covenant. The new agreement is that we're promised grace, mercy, right? And the Holy Spirit. We get that under the new covenant. If we are not under the new covenant, we don't get that. That's the reason why the same men saying we're not under the new covenant, they are void of the Holy Spirit. They're lacking knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. They don't even believe they're under the new covenant. They're not under the new agreement. They can't receive the promises of the new covenant if they're not under the new covenant. Make that make sense. All right. Try to make it make sense. All right. The better covenant equals salvation by faith. All right. And obedience to Yahawashi. Again, a covenant is an agreement, it's a contract, it's a pact. And that's what we are under, a pact, right? Where we receive grace, mercy, salvation, and the Holy Spirit under this new covenant, under this new contract. All right. If you are under the law, you are cursed. Let's go to Galatians chapter 3. All right, let's get verse 10. For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. Anybody who doesn't keep 100% of the law of Moses, you are cursed. Again, not to the best of your ability, not just the ones that you can keep, nope, all of them. Because if you believe that you're under the law of Moses, you're under the obligation to the entire law of Moses. All right. So if you rely on the law, you fall short. Bottom line, no other way around it. Right. If you fall short, you fall under the curse. All right. So Yahawashi redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming the atonement for us. All right. Verse 13. Hamashiach hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. See, under the law of Moses, there is a curse. Everyone who hangs on a tree is considered cursed. What happened to us in slavery? We were hung from trees. So that meant that if the law of Moses was still in effect, that all of those people who were hung, right, even those who are being hanged today, because hanging is still happening right now, whether you're paying attention to the news or not, brothers are being hanged all the time, right now, modern day. That means they are under the curse of the law of Moses because they're being hanged. All right. That means even if they are regenerated, they remain under a curse. If you've ever been hung, you remain under the curse. All right. All right. So let's go to, you know what? Because I said that we was going to really touch on the law of Moses, right? And again, I want you to study to show thyself approved. I'm not going to go into all the scriptures that show these things. I'm just going to talk about them. But you can go into Exodus and Leviticus, and you can read these things for yourself to study, to show thyself approved, right? Because we got to note that, some laws cannot be kept today because they require a temple. They require Levitical priests. They require living in the land of Israel. They are linked to sacrifices, or they demand civil penalties that we can't enforce under captivity. All right. So let's see, we got things like so the Most High had general faith laws, right? And most of these, if not all of these, are part of the things that we can actually do, right? To believe in Yahawah, to know that there is only one power, to love Yahawah, to fear Yahawah, to sanctify Yahawah's name, not to profane Yahawah's name, not to test Yahawah, right? To imitate Yahawah's ways, right? To cleave to those who know him, to love converts, right? Not to add to the commandments. Uh-oh, wait a minute. We got to stop here for a second. Let's not gloss past this. We are told not to add to the commandments. And we all should be under the understanding that the commandments is a reference to the 10 commandments, right? Right? Okay, right. Glad we're all on one accord with that. So that means, again, we're instructed not to add to the commandments. Let me ask you a question. If you tell people that, they're gonna die because they gotta, they can't shave their beard and they can't shave their head, did you add to the commandments or no? If you tell people that they got to keep the dietary law, did you add to the commandments or not? Show me thou shalt not eat shrimp in the 10 commandments, and I believe you. Show me thou shalt not eat pork in the 10 commandments, and I'll believe you. But if you can't, that means you're adding to the commandments, because we were taken from under the law of Moses and we are under the 10 commandments. That's the royal law. That's the law of liberty. That's what Yahawashi taught. That's what he told us what we were under and what we're supposed to teach and what we're supposed to keep. Not the law of Moses, the 10 commandments. But he never said anything about the dietary law. There's a reason, because the dietary law was not part of the 10 commandments. So he was letting us know that we're no longer going to be killed because of not obeying by the dietary law. You're no longer gonna be condemned for violation of the dietary law, because that's under the law of Moses. It's not part of the 10 commandments. All right. We're not to diminish from the commandments, so you can't take away from them. All right. And we're told not to make a covenant with idolaters. All right. And technically, all right, this is why you got to be careful of what you're saying. If you work a job and you work for the enemy, you work for Esau, you work for Edom, you work for, the Pakistani man, the Arab man, they believe in Jesus, or worshiping the saints if they're Catholics, and they believe in Allah and all of this, Buddha, whatever, and you working for them, they're idolaters. And if you work for them, you have a contract with them. You have a covenant with them. You have an agreement with them to work for them for money. That's a covenant. You have a contract. You have an agreement with them. So just by being an employee of somebody who doesn't believe in Yahawah, by Hashem Yahawashi, they are an idolater, and you are guilty under the law of Moses. Just so you know, all right? Not to love the idolater, not to show mercy to idolaters. You're supposed to be killing them. You're supposed to be out here slaying, man. Christianity is the world's biggest religion, followed by Islam. Man, I ain't heard yet about these Israelite crusades going around where it's just all sorts of Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and atheists and everybody else just being slaughtered out here. The Israelites are on a tear out here in the world, just mowing down people left and right in order to keep the law of Moses. But they believe they're under the law of Moses, but they're not really keeping it. They'll tell you they are, but they're not. They're liars. All right? You're hearing for yourself. These people are liars. You know they aren't doing this. All right? You're not to permit idolaters to dwell in the land. You believe that's your land over there? You know those people aren't you. They aren't your people. They are idolaters, right? But yet, what are they doing? Dwelling in your land, right? That's your land, right? Are those idolaters in your land? Yes or no? Yeah? Why you ain't over there mowing shit down? Come on, law lover. You got to explain this. Why you aren't keeping the law of Moses that you love so much? Huh? To burn a city that turns to idolatry. Wait a minute. How many out here are serial arsonists out here burning cities down for idolatry? None of them. Not to rebuild a destroyed idolatrous city. Right? Not to derive benefit from things associated with idolatry. We all do this. We all have done this. All right? AKA money. Money. They got their idolatry, their symbols of idolatry right on the money. You feel me? But yet we receive benefit from the currency, right? What else? We're supposed to destroy idols and their accessories. Hmm. I don't see Israelites going into all of these churches and mosques and everything, tearing stuff down, right? All the statues of Jebus supposed to be torn down. Y'all supposed to be destroying all of this stuff. Y'all ain't went over there yet and destroyed that big old cube over there, right? Come on, man. Come on. All right. What about Torah study and teaching? All right. We're supposed to learn the Torah and teach it. Okay, okay, okay. We can do that. We're supposed to honor those who teach and know Torah. Okay, okay. We can do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're supposed to write a Torah scroll. Wait a minute. Come on, law lovers, gather around. Everybody produce your Torah scroll. Make a video. Produce your Torah scroll right now. Everybody, you should all have a Torah scroll that you made. You should have all transcribed the Torah scroll and you should have did it in Hebrew, right? Produce your Torah scrolls on three. One, two, three. Liar. All right. Not to forget the things seen at Sinai to, all right, to affix the mezuzah, the Torah passages on a doorpost. Show me some video of your doorpost at your house with the Torah passages all on it. Most of you can't do it because most of you live in apartments and you can't go writing on stuff. You can't do it. Guilty, 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 guilty. Liar, liar, liar. Right? Prayer and blessings. All right. To pray daily. Okay. Okay. We can do that. We can do that. Okay. To bless Yahawah after eating food. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Not to curse Yahawah. Okay. We can do that. Not to curse a judge or ruler. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, that means, wait a minute. That means if you cursing your local governor, your mayor, your president, yours or any ruler of any nation, you're guilty, right? No, that just means any ruler or judge of Israel. Oh, okay, 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 okay. I'll let you have that one, right? Listen to this one. Listen to this one. Not to curse any Israelite. It doesn't say, you except unless they're 2/3. If they're 2/3, you can go ahead and curse them. Nah, they be sending up curses on Israel, on who they call the 2/3 of Israel. They be sending up curses, right? Asking for the Most High to destroy them, calling for them to be killed, calling for their destruction. They aren't supposed to curse any Israelite. That's the law. That's the law. Love and brotherhood, to love your neighbor, right? They're guilty of not really doing that one. To reprove a sinner, oh man, that's one of their favorites. They love to try to do that. To not hate your brother. Wait a minute, here they go again. This one tripped them up again. They're tripped up on the law again because there's a spirit of hatred, right? That comes with being a law lover. They don't have the spirit of love, so it's a lot of hate in them for other brothers. All right. Not to embarrass others. Guilty, guilty, guilty. All right. Not to oppress the weak. Not to gossip. Guilty again. Not to take revenge. Not to bear a grudge. Guilty, guilty. Right. So what about the temple, sanctuary, and the priesthood? Right. All right. You got to build a sanctuary for Yahawah. All right. You're not to build an altar of stones hewn of iron. Not to ascend the altars by steps. All right. Priests must bless Israel. All right. Priests must wash their hands and feet before service. Now, I'm gonna get past this because they don't have any contention with understanding that the priesthood is done away with. The priesthood is gone. So there's no reason to discuss this section. All right. The sacrificial system laws, no need to discuss this either because they believe that only the sacrificial system and laws have been done away with. So, bringing that up is pointless. Festivals and observances. All right. Rest on the Sabbath, not to work on the Sabbath, to sanctify the Sabbath. all right? To rest on Passover, to rest on Pentecost, to rest on Yom Kippur. See, look, they're already in trouble. They be out here, having gatherings on Passover, throwing little parties, little shindigs, right? They don't be resting, right? To rest on Pentecost, don't do it. To rest on Yom Kippur, or to fast, right, on Yom Kippur if they believe in it, right? To rest on the Feast of Tabernacles. Nope, they be all on social media trying to show you, you know what I'm saying, and being in tents and everything else, right? To rest on the eighth day assembly, right? To hear the shofar, right, on Rosh Hashanah, if they believe in it, right? To dwell in a sukkah for 7 days, right? Right. So feast observances are land and temple centered, all right? And and so you cannot keep them as commanded today. All right. You just can't do it. All right. Now, as for the dietary laws, all right, not to eat forbidden animals. Okay, they can partially keep this, but not really. You don't really know what's really in everything that you eat. All right. And if you think the enemy has not mixed this or mixed that, and that you aren't eating your food defiled, you are eating your food defiled. There are pork byproducts and so many different things that you are completely unaware of. All right. Not to eat blood, not to eat things strangled. Since you're not in control of your food, all right? You're not in control of how your food is, your meat, the animals are killed, or any of that mess, right? So how do you know if the animals were killed properly? How do you know if you're eating animals that were killed lawfully or not? You don't. You have no way of knowing. And in a lot of cases, most of us, if not all of us, have all, eaten some animal that was not killed in the kosher way. All right. All right. You're supposed to inspect slaughtered animals carefully, but yet you can't inspect any of the animals that you've been eating. Right. This sounds like this is meant for people who would be in their own land and have their own animals that they kill and eat. Hmm. But all the laws are still in effect, though, right? So how do we, a bunch of people, well, most of us don't even have houses, we're in apartments, you know what I'm saying, and no livestock. How are we supposed to keep this law? How are you supposed to do it? If it is the law and you got to keep it, how are most people supposed to keep it and they're incapable? That means most, if not all, are guilty of breaking this law. All right. What about ritual purity and impurity? All right. Laws about touching the dead, laws about menstruation and impurity, right? Laws about what's supposed to happen when your woman is, it's her time of the month, right? You can't share the bed with her. Some cases you can't even she can't even be in the same house with you, right? But all of these dudes who claim to be keepers of the law of Moses, they be laying right there next to their woman, you know what I'm saying, when she's on her cycle. She'd be right there in the bed right next to him. Man, dudes are terrified. They wouldn't dare tell a woman she got to get up and go sleep on the couch. She got a special bed for when it's that time of the month that she got to sleep on. Hmm. Ain't none of them are keeping this law, right? Laws about childbirth impurity. They aren't following the childbirth impurity laws either, right? Laws about semen emission, right? Right, laws about purifying after impurity via water, right? So most of these are tied to temple worship and priest inspections, right? Impossible today. All right, marriage, divorce, and family, right? All right, to marry by contract, all right? All right, not to have relations outside of marriage. And they'll say, well, sex is marriage, and they're not wrong. That's the consummation of marriage. That's when you're considered married is after you have sex. You're considered married. All right. But okay, so then that leads to this. That means every woman you have sex with, that's supposed to be your wife, then, fam, right? All right. So you're gonna tell me that all you men who claim to be law lovers and law keepers, that you only have sex with women who are your wives. So every woman you have sex with, she's your wife. You're taking care of her, right? Right? She's under your covering, right? You don't never just sleep with women you aren't married with, too, right? Never. You never do that, right? Every woman that you sleep with becomes your wife, and y'all got a bond, and y'all live together, and you guys have the contract of husband and wife with each other, right? Nope, 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 nope. No, they don't. Stop lying. All right. All right, to give a woman a bill of divorce if needed, not to remarry one's ex-wife after she remarried another, not to have incestuous relationships, not to marry certain forbidden relations. All right, so all of these things, all right, a lot of these things are easier kept than others, right? But it's certain things I guarantee you, a lot of these men, especially, aren't keeping. They aren't doing it. What about the women, right? They aren't supposed to sleep with a bunch of men, all right? First man that they sleep with, that's supposed to be their husband. They're and if you got any woman out here and they got multiple bodies, where's the Israelite brigade that's supposed to be going around to go kill all these women? You're supposed to be stoning them, fam. You're supposed to be stoning them. You're supposed to go ahead and roll through the hood, roll it everywhere the people are at, right? And go find every young girl who's pregnant or got a little boyfriend and she didn't have sex with him and they ain't married. Go kill her, fam. Go stone her. Go get busy or shut up about the law. All right. Those are your choices. All right. What about judicial and civil laws to appoint judges and officers, right? Again, of your people. You shouldn't be out here taking part in the political system, all right? To judge righteously, not to accept bribes, not to favor the wealthy or the poor in judgment, to punish the wicked, to punish the wicked, to punish the wicked, all right? But again, that's in the law, but they're not out here punishing the wicked. They're talking about it, they're condemning them, but they're not punishing them though, right? Which means they're violating the law, all right? To establish cities of refuge, all right? All right, law keepers, show me your cities of refuge. Where are the cities of refuge that you've established? Show me. Can't do it? Oh, okay. Guilty. All right. To execute certain criminals. All right. Show me where you've been doing this. Guilty. All right. To not bear false witness. All right. To restore lost property. Right. To relieve a suffering animal. All right. So many laws call for penalties that we cannot lawfully enforce today, as I spoke of before. All right. All right. We got business and financial laws, right? To pay workers on time, not to oppress the worker, not to lend with interest to a brother. All right. Many are guilty of that. All right. To cancel debts every seventh year. There's a lot of people out here right now that are still mad at somebody that owed them $2 from 15 years ago. Right. Supposed to cancel the debt. All right. Not to cheat in measurements and weights, all of these different things, right? These are all parts of the law that I'm pretty sure many have offended in at some point, but you call yourself under the law. All right. You got dudes right now who will tell you that the law has always been in effect, even when we weren't in the truth, even when we were ignorant of the law. All right. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, which means, a lot of y'all was little drug dealers, you sold your little weed, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? How many times you didn't sold somebody a 2.8, you know what I'm saying, and told them it was a 3.5, fam. You in trouble. Guilty. Right? All right. And there's just so many things, man. Like we're not to practice divination, not to consult soothsayers, not to practice witchcraft, not to worship idols, and we are to destroy idolatry. But you aren't destroying idolatry, and you aren't out here killing people who practice divination. All right. What about all of these women, all these people out here who love astrology and so forth? What about all the zodiac queens out there? You're supposed to be slaying them, fam. We know that many Israelite women practice witchcraft, but you're not doing nothing about it though, right? You're supposed to be killing those women. What are you doing? All right. So many of the 613 laws require a standing temple, a Levitical priesthood, the sovereignty of the land of Israel, and civil authority to carry out judgments. At least 60 to 70% of the laws are completely impossible to keep in captivity. Right? Even those that seem simple, like Sabbaths and feast days, are not being kept according to Torah instructions. They are being remembered. All right? They're honored to the best of our ability, but not kept exactly as commanded. All right. So the law was a complete system. You break one, you break all. You can't pick and choose. All right. The law served its purpose, which was to show us that we needed Yahawashi. All right. So today we are called to keep the royal law. Love Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahawashi. Love our neighbor. All right. Walk in the fruits of the Spirit. Believe on Yahawashi, the one who fulfilled the law. Obey his commands under the new covenant. All right. Anything less rejects the work of the king. Anything more adds to what Yahawah has finished. All right. And so, trying to think, is there anything that I'm forgetting to cover? Because I don't want to do the second part and I don't want to edit this video and have to add anything to it. Just basically like the law of Moses, it could never save us, fam. It was never intended to. All right. It was never designed and instituted to save us or to help make us righteous. It was never designed to help prepare us for the kingdom. All right. It wasn't meant to last forever. Just like the instructions that you give to your child isn't meant to last them forever. All right. Chris, don't be going into the street. Don't cross that street. Chris is 2. He's 5. That's good instructions for him. When Chris is 21, you wouldn't be telling them, don't be crossing that street by yourself, Chris. Don't be crossing that street by yourself. You wouldn't do it because it doesn't apply to him anymore. Right? It applied at a certain time, but it doesn't apply to him anymore. Same thing. That's the law of Moses. It applied at a certain time, but it doesn't apply anymore. All right? It was designed to show us our sin and to drive us to Yahawashi. That's what it was supposed to do. So today, righteousness is found in believing in Yahawashi, obeying the law of the Spirit, love, faith, truth, and so on, right? To walk in newness of life, right? Not the dead letter of the law. All right? Again, remembering Romans 8, right? All right, verse 1 and 2. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Hamashiach Yahawashi, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Hamashiach Yahawashi hath made me free from the law of sin and death. We have been made free from the law of sin and death. All right, so you want to rehearse righteousness? Walk in the Spirit. Believe on Yahawashi. Love the Father and your brother. See, that's what Yahawashi died to give you. That's what the new covenant is about. So don't crucify yourself again under Moses. All right. You got to live free in the king. All right. That's what he wants you to do, is righteousness to do that. All right. And so lastly, one last scripture, and we're out of here, fam. Thank you for rocking this long. All right. I pray that you guys were all blessed by this. Let's get John 8, verse 36. If the Son, therefore, shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. That's sweet, right? So give me liberty or give me death. See, that's why that very first lesson I ever did on this channel, it was called Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death. All right, because that's what we get. If we're under the law of Moses, we're going to die. We're under the law, the covenant of death. We have a covenant with death, fam. We made a pact with death if you're under the law of Moses. And the law of Moses is the strength of sin. It's what Satan uses to accuse you before the Father, because you believe in the law of Moses. Every time you don't keep it, every time you break it, Satan is is back there pointing at you, saying, "Look, look, 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 look! You see him? You see him? See what he did?" You're being accused under the law of Moses every day. You see, if Yahawashi shall make you free, which he has made us free, you shall be free indeed. We are free from the law of Moses. We are free from the oppression of the law of Moses, from the bondage of the law of Moses. We are under the royal law of liberty. Walk ye in it. See you guys on the next one. Yahawah willing, each one, reach one. Shalom.